you're hated. Yeah? You're the worst leader this country's ever had. That's what you're going to be remembered as. You're not going to last for 5 years. And I hope I played my part in that. Didn't check him, because they don't check any of them. Just place him in hotels at the end of our roads with our daughters walking past. They've already fucked my life through a lie. I've been living like or thinking like I'm coming to the end of my time now. If I'm going out with a bang. So you can all fuck yourselves. I'll play that film. I'm not going to back down, Chuck. Do your best.
I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, Gold Seal. I use their products every single day, and now I finally get to work with them. I use their products for anti-inflammatory, reduced anxiety, better sleep, and mental clarity. I'm going to put a link to their website in the description, along with a 10% discount code for you to take advantage of. Go and have a look at their website, see if there's anything in there for you. I hope you enjoy this week's episode, and good health.
Stephen.
Liam.
Good to see you, man.
So we're both in shirts. We both look smart, from the waist up at least.
It's about
We're in our pants below that, but you can't see that.
We're not dressed serious, but the conversation is going to be very serious. Let me just quickly touch base before we get into the flow of things. Manifesto, your new book, an overview of how the world works, would you say?
An overview of how they lie to us, of how they manufacture us as farm animals, basically, the 1%. They manipulate the truth. They just want us as slaves for them. It talks about the great replacement. What a lot of people don't realise is that this immigration crisis isn't a crisis, it's a manufactured crisis. They've organised it and planned it. We look at that. That's an academic research. It took us 5 years to piece this together, me and Peter McGottman. For me, it's been a great week. It's gone straight to number one. It overtook Boris Johnson, which is meant to be the best political memoir in history. It knocked him off the top spot, which must hurt a lot of people. And I think people are going to get a shock. I know how bad the situation is. I know how they lie and repeatedly lie. I know how the terms they use, far right, and how they manipulate the truth and they beat people down. I know it all because I've experienced it in my life. When I started digging down the whole of this to put it together, I was terrified. I thought, shit, this is far worse than I thought. We're in trouble. Anyone who loves freedom, we're in trouble. We're being replaced. We're literally, if you're a European, if you're a white European, the plan, which is orchestrated, and we put in here all the footnotes for the evidence, they don't hide it. It's all there in plain sight. The plan is to replace you as European populations. That's what immigration is about. They're replacing European populations.
So, for the curious mind, for the lovers and the haters and the people in between that don't really know whether they love you or hate you, this is a must-read. And it says on the front, free speech, real democracy, and peaceful disobedience. And we can cover all that once we've got into the mindset of a man that just is not willing to give up, irrespective of consequence.
And you can get that at trmanifesto.com. I've got to plug it, Liam, come on. trmanifesto.com. I've got to plug it because as we're about to find out, I'm probably going away for a while. I need to make sure my kid's all right for a couple of years. So I'm very happy that the timing of this book going to number one couldn't have come at a better timing for me, so I can relieve some stress and pressure on my family's financial situation.
And I want to discuss your family relationships and the impact it has. So trmanifesto.com is where you can purchase this book. I'm certainly going to read it, and I'm not really big on reading. I normally learn by listening, but
Same as me.
Everyone I spoke to that have read this has said to me, if there's one book you read this year, it's this one, so I will take their advice.
And it should be embarrassing to every academic, everyone who calls himself an academic, who leads on the right of politics or the left of politics, that it took Tommy Robinson to piece this together with the evidence to explain to the world what they're doing to us.
So we've had riots recently.
We have.
We've had civil unrest after the murder of 3 young girls in Southport.
And the attempted murder of another 8.
And the attempted murder of another 8. And it was unfortunate, or fortunate, depending on which way you see it, that the riots started, the civil unrest started to erupt several days after a very successful event.
Sexy and successful
that you held. And I call it an event because it wasn't a demonstration. It was more like it had more of a concert feel. There was women, children, obviously there's men, but there was different races there. There was different religions and faiths there. And I know this because I was there.
How good was it?
It was very good.
How good was it, man? I said to people, like, the comments from people who went, who said that was like going to a concert. It was like going to an actual put-on event, and it should have been. We had 3 huge screens. We had 100,000 people. And we had, do you know what they've taken from us? They've took our identity. They've took our pride. We're not allowed to be proud of our identity, our history, our culture. They've took all those things from us. So we brought everyone together and said, let's celebrate it. Let's celebrate British identity. And I'm not talking, you don't have to be white to be British. Many migrants have come to this country and embraced it and loved it. And many of them come and supported our event. The diversity was shocking for me. It shocked me, the diversity. Because they've tried to make us a toxic brand. They've certainly tried to make me a toxic brand and portray me to the public as a racist. Well, that's totally failed. Totally failed. Because everywhere I go, I get embraced by every minority who are supportive. Because so many migrants come to this country, like my mother, but Caribbean migrants, Sikh migrants, Indian migrants have come to this country and embraced it and love it. And they're as terrified as us. They're as terrified as well. Because they come to this country for a reason, for the success and the beautiful freedom-loving country that it was. And they're taking the freedom. It doesn't look successful anymore. It looks tyrannical from the government point of view. Rape's on the rise. We're now the rape capital of Europe. Terrorism. There's community clashes. There's zero integration from the Islamic community. There's ghettos being built. The future, I think every average British person now is terrified of what the future looks like. It doesn't even look like Great Britain anymore. When you go into London, where I think the white community of London are 33%, we're meant to celebrate that. Celebrate the demise of the Anglo-Saxon nation. 1,000 years of history. We should celebrate it. Why? Rape up, crime up, criminality up, everything's up. So I think that what we wanted to do was, yes, I'm angry. Yes, we're angry. But we wanted to, rather than come with an angry attitude, was to put on a celebration, to say this is who we are. And as well as relay a message. So each of these demonstrations and these events, the first one was 30,000, next one was 100,000. At each one, and what we were saying is we're progressing and we're getting organised. We're bringing together the biggest influencers politically, Katie Hopkins, the Mayor Tusis, the Cole Benjamins, the Paul Forbes, bringing them all together to make sure that our message, because the media are a weapon, and they're a weapon, they're a tool of a totalitarian state. Everyone, on the 27th of July, from the 27th of July, everyone saw what developed with the riots, and then you saw how the media were used and the courts were used to suppress and attack the British public and intimidate them into silence.
But I want to say that I turned up to Unite the Kingdom. I wanted to come there as a spectator, as a bit of a journalist, and just see for myself, the volume of numbers, the atmosphere, the vibe, the attitude, and get a sense of who's actually turning up and what they're turning up for. So I turned up just to enjoy the day. I was so impressed by the love in the air, the atmosphere, the community, that I spoke at the end of the demo. And I was happy to put my face to the event that you successfully put on.
Did you feel, do you know at that event, did you feel, because I said, my mum said to me, enjoy it, Stephen. Make sure you enjoy it. Because I don't really enjoy demonstrations because I'm stressed, pressured. Organising something, pressure, event, everything can go wrong, police, we have to make sure we're trying to control it. So I don't really enjoy it. And I remember standing there looking out and I think I said, Mum, I'm enjoying this moment. Because I looked at a sea of the whole of Trafalgar Square was full, as far as the eyes could see. And I went, back to 8 years ago, I went to Poland for their Independence Day. And I stood at the front, and hundreds of thousands of Polish come out every year. And they celebrate their independence. And they come out with their kids on their shoulders and flags everywhere and banners, and they've got flares. And it's just a sea of patriotism. And look, I've got goosebumps now, yeah? Right? And I stood in Poland and I said, feel that. I feel power. I can feel the energy running through me from this crowd of their togetherness and their community. And then I looked at Poland's history and understood that they were wiped off the map. There was no Poland. And they fought, every war they've ever fought, they've been outnumbered 40-1. The biggest uprising ever, civil uprising against the Nazis, was 200,000 Poles in Warsaw with pitchforks. Yeah? They have fought the Battle of Britain, Poles. Everywhere, Polish have fought and fought and fought. And they've always fought. So they know what it's like to lose their country. They know what it's like to have their identity at risk. We've lost it. Yeah? We don't realise that. So we lost it. So I remember standing there and I interviewed Polish people. And the first Polish gentleman I interviewed, he said, you see your older generation, they know who they are. You know your new generation, because he'd lived in England, they're lost. And I thought he's right. And then I felt jealous. And I felt, we will never have this moment. And on the 27th of July, I stood there and felt that moment. And I thought, wow, this is it. This is like, we've come a long way. We've come somewhere now where the British are coming together, joining together, not in hate, not in hate, in love for the nation. But I think that though that moment, and everyone that enjoyed that moment, we had nearly 1 million people watching it live. And then that crowd, when there was no arrests, when we had children, women, old people, every group, celebration, music, we weren't against anyone, were deemed far-right, racist, thugs, extremists. So what that does is the power of the media is taken, because right now we have 1 million people watching live. So you've got 1 million people who are watching this beautiful event, and then they're seeing it demonised and attacked. So that would have stroked fear. The last thing our government want is a united country, a united community. And that's what we managed to do. We managed to unite the kingdom successfully and celebrate who we are peacefully, against all the odds, against all the provocation, against all the concerns of two-tier policing. I have to take my hat off to the police. We worked with the police on both these events, totally successful. But that would have struck fear into the heart of the establishment. They want us divided. They want us divided. They want us hating each other. They want us into little separate groups. And on that day, we brought everyone together. So I'm still immensely proud of that day. But you're totally right. The development straight after that, literally that night, I went home and then I travelled to Folkestone. And when I got to the border of Folkestone, I was detained under the Terrorism Act, which again, I was detained for 6 hours. Under terrorism legislation, the British government, this is the problem we have. They bring in people who are a danger. They let the problem get so bad, and then they come in with the solutions. And the solution is always more law to take more of your freedom. So they bring in these laws. For example, when I started the English Defence League, I was put under conditions where my bank assets were frozen and my businesses were frozen, and I was put on a legislation that I'm only allowed to spend £250 a week. This legislation was passed by the Labour government to deal with terrorists. Here they are turning it on their own British citizens who are organising protests against their narrative. So the terrorism legislation, which is supposed to be to deal with people who are in acts of terrorism, it means you do not have a right to remain silent. So when they get you, which they got me, they can ask you questions for 6 hours, and if you don't answer their questions, you breach terrorism legislation, you're charged and prosecuted. You're convicted, because it's black and white. You have no right to remain silent. You have to give them the passcodes to your phone. So they sit me down and they ask me questions. All the questions that the terrorism department are questioning me on are about my legal, lawful and legitimate activism, which they have no right. The state have no right to be questioning me about our cultural movement, the cultural movement that we're building, how we operate, who organises demonstrations, who writes a speech, what are our plans for next year, what do we see happening in 2 years, what about Israel-Palestine. They sat down and grilled me for 6 hours. And I said, the first question was, what do you think of Great Britain? I said, it's a totalitarian shithole. Yeah? Because I just produced a documentary that we played on that day called Lawfare, Totalitarian State. They said, well, what makes you say that? I said, well, you've just detained me under the Terrorism Act, and you've just told me you know I've got nothing to do with terrorism, but here you are taking away my rights as a citizen. Now, as they took away my rights as a citizen, I'm a journalist. They may not like my journalism because it exposes and humiliates and embarrasses them, but I'm a journalist. How many people spoke up for me as a journalist when I was detained under the Terrorism Act? Not one. Not one of these new Reform MPs, Nigel Farage, no one. They all condemned me, actually. Yeah. So, no crime. I'm detained for 6 hours. I'm then released, and they've seized my phone. No, I'm not released, I'm arrested. So in those 6 hours, then they say, give us the passcode to your phone. I say, no. I said, because on that phone is privileged information, legal information, which is privileged, and my sources of information, which you have no right to know who I talk to. I've done a 5-part series on grooming gangs, looking at corrupt police officers. We're looking at a Labour politician who's a paedophile. We've got an investigation into him. You've got no right to access my sources. I don't trust you. So then they arrested me, and they moved me from Folkestone Court to a police station. And I was being told I was being charged. On the outside, after such a successful event, breaking news everywhere that Tommy Robinson was being held under the Terrorism Act. People started protesting in London. It was going viral. I think it had millions and millions of people online talking about it. They didn't charge me. They then released me on bail. So at 11 o'clock at night, they released me on bail. So I'm released at 11 o'clock at night with no phone. I'm driving. I go back to the port. I go back to the dock, and I think, because I'm on my way to Spain. So I start driving through France. I've got no phone. Yeah? I'm detained doing 200 kilometres an hour. 200 kilometres an hour. I'm shooting through France, yeah? And I'm racing because I'm thinking, I just want to get to where I'm going now. I drive non-stop for 16 hours. But I'm nicked. I'm stopped by the French police, and it's at the toll road. So I'm pulled in. You're doing 200 kilometres an hour. I said, okay, sorry. Yeah? It's the middle of the night. There's no one on the roads. I shouldn't have been doing it. I was racing through, so they give me a fine. It's about €1,000 fine. So they give me a €1,000 fine, and then they take my driving licence. And they said, they take it off me, right, you're not allowed to drive. And the car's there. I said, so, well, what am I going to do? And they said, well, you'll have to phone, I don't know, you have to phone someone. He goes, you can drive in Spain. So I said, so how far Spain? 3 hours away. I said, how the fuck am I going to get to Spain? And then I said, well, you can't just leave me. I've got no phone. And the coppers are like, how have you got no phone? I said, you wouldn't believe me if I told you, yeah? I said, so what am I going to do, lads? How am I going to get out of this situation? He goes, you're going to have to ring someone. I said, I ain't got no numbers. I ain't got no phone. I've got nothing. They said, who's driving from one country to another without a mobile phone? And I don't know, at the minute, I've just come straight out of custody. I haven't looked on the internet. I haven't read anything, but I know it's viral that I've been arrested on terrorism legislation. So I said to the police officer, just Google this name. And he's got his phone out and he's Googled Tommy Robinson. And he's looked, he's gone, and he stopped with the two, and all these three coppers are talking, and he's like, he doesn't like the Muslims. And I'm start laughing. Yeah. I start laughing. And he's reading more. He goes, we have big problem. He's on about the French. He goes, big problem. And he's reading more, and he must be reading French websites, and they're sitting there discussing. And he says, he goes, you attacked police officer. So he must be reading my criminal record on there as well. I was like, no, that was 15 years ago. Yeah, and there's a story to it. I said, lads, look, I've been detained. They've took my phone because I held a demonstration, and then they got the videos up. I said, of 100,000 people, we're opposed to the Islamic takeover of our nation. I'm talking to these three police officers, and the police officer said, if I could take this back, if I could take it back, I would. If I could take back, we've already took your license, we can't take it back, it's gone through the system. He says, wait there. He rings a friend comes, drives my car for 3 hours. Yeah? A Frenchman, he didn't speak a word of English, I'm in the passenger seat, and another car follows. The police took my car to Spain, handed me over, shook my hand. That's the problems that are in France after reading that. And then all this time, I've still got no phone. So the police drive my car, get me to Spain, I'm back in the car. So I go straight to a shopping centre, buy a phone. During this time, between me getting to southern Spain, riots have erupted. Riots that I'm blamed for. I don't even know there's a riot. I don't even know 3 kids have been killed. Yeah, I haven't had a phone. So by the time I'm then in Spain, and then boom, it's everywhere. And I see that riots are going on in Southport. I start understanding that there's been an attack of children. And the problem is, you see, when there's these attacks, if you watch, we've got a documentary coming out 26th of October. The police come out straight away and say, we have to manage the situation. So treat the British public like absolute fucking morons and lie to them, basically. That's what they've done. When they put a picture up of the attacker, it's like a nice little choir boy. Put a picture up of what he looks like now as a man, yeah? Tell us the truth of who he is. Stop lying. Cardiff man. Cardiff man is Rwandan. He's not a Cardiff man. So everything is a manipulation of the truth. So when the public don't trust them, I don't trust them. And I don't trust them for multiple reasons. If you Google Russell Square attack, in Russell Square in London, a Muslim went into a mosque. This is about 10 years ago. He went to a mosque and said he wants to kill non-Muslims. The Imam didn't ring the police. They prayed for him. He left the mosque. He didn't go and stab any Muslims. He went to Russell Square. He screamed Allah Akbar. He stabbed 10 people and he murdered an American citizen. That wasn't classed as a terrorist attack. He was screaming Allah Akbar in between each one. That was classed as mental health. A woman was beheaded in her garden whilst a man shouted Allah Akbar. That wasn't classed as a terrorist attack. So from my own personal investigations and knowledge, I know they lie. I know we're lied to. So when this happens, the public are thinking the same. You've lied about everything. Everything's a lie. So that the riots kick off, they're nothing to do with me. The first video I make is telling people calm down. So I don't incite any riots, but the timing of this couldn't have been worse. But it couldn't have been better for the government. Because we're building, and I was very open about what we're building. We put a picture of 20 of us, 20 of the lead social media commentators, I'd say, the most influential people with the biggest reach. Between us, we have a bigger reach than any of the world's media. So if we bring us all together in a fight for British culture, because that's what we are now fighting for, if we can challenge any government narrative, if they want to lie to the British public, if they want to pollute the youth's mind, we can make videos together as a team, which was the idea of the cultural movement. We can hold events and we can bring the nation together. And we don't have to agree on everything because, Liam, we're mates, yeah? We will disagree on lots of issues, yeah? It's normal. But we can agree on principled issues, protecting children, protecting British culture, against sexualisation of children, all this transgender nonsense. We can agree, which is what we said to these groups. So I was making all this very evident to the government. We were saying, we're coming for the country. We're going to win the hearts and minds of the public, and we're not backing down. We've gone from 30,000 to 100,000. We're going to go to 250,000 people. We're going to bring the capital to a standstill of patriots. 100,000 people in Trafalgar Square in a peaceful celebration was the largest gathering of British patriots in history together. Yeah? That's never happened. So we've gone and done something that no one thought was possible. from communities who are skin, who are poor, but they've now come together. And what we were building would have terrified them. And we weren't building a political party, because I don't believe the solution is in politics. I believe the solution is in culture. If we change the culture, we change the politics. Politicians are cowards. Nigel Farage will go with the wind. When we pushed over the window enough, he'll say what's needed to be said. They all will. That's all of them. Yeah, they just shift if we push the culture enough. So we wanted to make it about celebrating British identity, not about being opposed to things, but saying this is who we are. This is our culture. We're going to defend it. We want our country back from the globalist idea of mass immigration, of replacing our people. We're not going to remain silent whilst you do it anyway. We're going to make your job very difficult, and that is through peaceful disobedience and awakening the public. So I made all that very evident, and then as soon as these riots kicked off, I'm sitting there, I'm in Spain, and I saw EDL. They blamed it on EDL. And I'm thinking, there is no EDL. Remember, I started EDL, I led EDL. There hasn't been an English Defence League since 2015. There hasn't been an English Defence League. Now, the Labour government have just come into power. Let's look at the reality. They haven't got a mandate. 9 million people voted for them, right? So they want to pretend they got them. 38 million people didn't. The majority of the people didn't. 48% of the British public didn't vote. That's us. Now, what our cultural movement wanted to do, and we still want to do, and we still will do, we want to bring that 48% and get them politicised, culturally, bring them together and electrify them and believe in something and give them a vision of a country and a vision of identity that ain't going to back down. Because we've backed down too much. As British people, we've backed down. We've backed down and we've surrendered too much of our identity, too much of our freedom already. We're allowing other cultures to dominate our towns and cities when it's our culture that needs to dominate, our identity needs to dominate. So that's what we was in the process of doing. That would have terrified the establishment. They blame the EDL. So as they blame the EDL, I think, oh, I know where this is going. This is going on my lap. Yeah, I knew that straight away. What? Because there is no EDL. And this happened in Liverpool, right? So where there definitely was no EDL. Left-wing City. So there is no English Defence League. It was a community. So as people come out to have a vigil, the local community, think about this. I spoke to one of the uncles of the girl who was murdered. The man stabbed her, took her bicep off, stabbed her in the neck. Yeah. So his niece was stabbed 7 times. And his goddaughter, this is when he said to understand how much rage there would have been in that small area, and his goddaughter was murdered. So that's that one man, family. Imagine the effect on them at that moment in time. And then when there's a vigil happening, now it turns out it was innocent, but when there's a vigil happening, another man of Arab appearance is arrested around the corner with a balaclava and a machete. So it looks like there's another attack planned. And at this time, no one knows the truth because they're hiding the truth. They should have just come out and said, look, it was a man of Rwandan descent. We believe this. This is how old he is. This is what he looks like. But they were hiding it all, trying to manage the public like we're idiots, like we're absolute morons. And then I never, at that time, and you can use chat, why they're blaming me, I never shared or said any assumption of who he was. I never said he was a Muslim. I never said he was an asylum seeker. I never said anything. Nigel Farage did. He tried kicking the blame on me. I think, mate, you didn't. You're the moron that shared it. I check my stuff. I've got a group here now on my WhatsApp group with a team of full-time employees. Anything I want to put out, I put in that team. We have full-time employees whose job it is to research and check everything. And if we can't prove it or substantiate it, we don't put it out. So I do my due diligence as a journalist. I don't just share bullshit, which Nigel Farage did, and then he tried kicking the riots on me. He tried saying, well, what, do you think I'm some sort of Tommy Robinson? What do you mean some sort of Tommy Robinson? I had nothing to do with these riots. And then I made videos, and I'm so fortunate that I have X. Because as Piers Morgan stood on TV and said that I instigated violence against mosques, as all these people stood, and I saw Keir Starmer put the blame on me as well, I saw all the government come out and attack against me. And that's because I terrified them with what we were building. So then now they're trying to use the media to convince the public that I'm the bogeyman. They come and track me down on my holiday. And I put together a video of everything I'd said since the riots, which is me calling for calm, telling people not to be violent, telling people to take the balaclavas off. The total opposite of what they're saying. There's no truth in the accusations made against me. But those accusations are made because they're so used to having the monopoly of the media to tell the public who someone is. They want the public to think I'm instigating riots from my sunbed. Sitting in fucking Cyprus. It's mental. But do you know what the time in that? What I haven't said is that resulted in Osma warnings. Police knocked on my mum and dad's house with threats to their lives. Knocked on my children's home, threats to their life. They doxed where my family were in a hotel in Cyprus. This is all one orchestrated and organised attack by the establishment. And they used it, and I'll tell you why they used it, Liam. They used it Because at this moment in time, the country's rising, the country's coming together. And they're coming together, not because they're far right. When you look at the research, so Tamworth, people in Tamworth come out and they're protesting and kicking off. They don't tell you that one of the migrants in the hotel in Tamworth went and raped an English woman. In Hartlepool, when they were kicking off at the hotel there, they don't tell you one of the migrants come out of the hotel and stabbed a 70-year-old British pensioner to death. They don't tell you that. So Keir Starmer has managed not to mention a single thing about any of the rapes. There's a dozen migrants who have been in the hotels, put up, we've housed them, fed them, clothed them. They've left those hotels and raped English women. I'm pretty sure that's going to piss off the local town and the community, the families. We interviewed for our documentary a father and a daughter. She was at Oxford. One of the migrants at the Home Office put in the hotel, didn't check him because they don't check any of them, just placed him in hotels at the end of our roads with our daughters walking past. He come out and raped the girl, ruined her life. So we interviewed the dad. Is he far right? Is his anger far right? So they're failures. And then when the riots kick off, he just blames it all on the far right. It's because and it's very clever government policy, because what he managed to do, using the weaponised media, using all the morons, is create this bogeyman, rather than accepting the entire country is angry and fed up. And it's justified anger. We're fed up because you've took the safety, you've took the future of our nation, you've changed it, you've destroyed towns and cities forever. Look what you've done to many of our towns and cities. Look at London. Look at the knife crime. He didn't talk about knife crime, didn't talk about migrant rape, didn't talk about asylum, didn't talk about the migrant crisis and the hotels, or didn't talk about any of it. Just blamed it all on the far right, blamed it all on me.
I know you've got every right to feel the way you feel, and if I was you, I'd be saying everything on repeat, because it's as if no one's listening, and I get that because I've followed this whole movement, your whole process very, very carefully. But I want to get a different interview. I want to get a different perspective, a different sense. I want the public to get to know Stephen. There's a few things I want to know. But before we move on to jail, how it's affecting your family, the reason why you haven't stopped, irrespective of consequence, because I want to know. I want to know what that burning desire is, because you're a man on a mission and there's nothing going to stop you. And it's not as if you've got nothing to lose. You know, you've got a beautiful family. I've been abroad with them several times. I speak to your mum independently. She's a glorious woman. You've got so much to lose, but yet you still won't stop. There's something in you that is so powerful. You're so driven by something. Like it's you're put on this planet to do it, and you don't care at any cost, because I know that you love all these people, and I know that you don't want to hurt these people, and they're all going to be sad when you go to jail. But before we go down that route, I don't want to pull on your heartstrings. I just want people to, I don't want people to think that you're a live wire that's got nothing to lose and you're just carefree and footloose and you're just out there doing whatever you please. It's, the whole family is devastated at what could potentially come. And as a friend, I'm also worried, because I don't say this lightly. And I want to know what prison's like for Tommy Robinson after we spoke about Stephen Yaxley Lennon. But I know that prison for you could be death, effectively, essentially. And I also know that this is the final interview that you're taking face-to-face before you return to the UK. And the chances are this is going to be aired when you're actually sat in jail. But you have put together a documentary. There was a story that the mainstream media ran with that was incorrect, and it was lies, and you know this because you was contacted by the people that were directly involved, a multitude of them, and as a journalist and a best-selling author, number 4, you went and investigated that independently, and you found that what the mainstream media were reporting were lies. Now, we were from the day we're born, we are taught to tell the truth, be honest, don't tell lies, or you get told off, you get grounded, you get put on the naughty step. There's consequences for lying. But yet you went and reported the truth with witness statements, well-documented, irrefutable evidence. So the government can lie, the mainstream media can lie without consequence, but you tell the truth and you then face jail. So you're now facing jail because the judge said to you, if you air this documentary, which will prove the establishment's corruption, if you air this, you are going to go to jail for contempt of court. So you had a decision. Okay, do I need to air this? Do I want to air this? Must I air this? Why am I going to air this? So I want to know, and I bet a lot of people want to know, knowing damn well that you're going to go to jail, and the chances are you could die or be put in solitary confinement, and go out of your mind. And we're going to talk about that because you're not going to go out of your mind. You're going to do other things that are going to keep your mind in check. But you knew you're going to go to jail. You knew it's going to potentially break you. You know it's going to break your mum's heart, your children's heart. You and your ex-wife have got a good relationship still. You have to for the children. It's going to break a lot of people's hearts. What was so important? What was so essential to you that made you think, I'm publishing this documentary?
Multiple reasons, but mainly they've already fucking ruined my life.
How long have you been living abroad, waiting for the inevitable? 4 years?
Yeah, 4 years.
And this is actually a good chance for you and me to actually have a proper conversation about it, because when we're out about having dinner, there's always distractions.
We have some good dinner.
We have very good dinner. But I also...
No, do you know what it is? So they've already fucked my life through a lie. They bankrupt me through a lie. They resulted in my divorce through a lie.
How have you been coping?
You know what? All right, considering the situations. But not just that, multiple things. They didn't just ruin my life. So I haven't lived with my kids for 4 years because of this lie. So there's a lie that they fucking told, that I knew the truth, that they used the court system and they weaponised their judiciary, as they just have recently against members of the British public. And they shut me up and they gagged me, and I let them gag me. I allowed them to silence me for 3 years. And those 3 years resulted in me leaving home, moving abroad, lost, nowhere to live, moving from one place to another place. But I think not just the lie, my son's 15 now. Bailey, the boy in the story, was 15. They fucked his life. They fucked his mum's life. I watched the whole family break. They fucked Charlie, the little grade A student who come to court and testified. Straight grade A student studying law at university, come to court and give evidence. They called her a liar. They called 5 children that testified. Justice Nicklin, he said sometimes people just lie for no reason at all. So his finding as the most intellectual mind in our country, as the highest judge in our country, was that these 5 kids just made up that they were attacked by Jamal. And all of these kids had said things before I was involved in the story. So these kids said it, I come along as a journalist, interviewed them and repeated it, and then they used a cause and threats through the legal system of bankruptcy to attempt to intimidate me. When that didn't work, they targeted my family's home. They doxed the family's home, they live streamed it, they sent people to it and threatened to kill my kids. So the fallout in those years for me, I'm that bitter about it that I'm all in anyway. Like, you fuckers you have called it on. Like, I carried that weapon, I call it a weapon. I'm sitting there for 3 years thinking, I've got a film that absolutely annihilates them. And the reason that film's on 53 million views, yeah, like, public interest. Of course it was in the public interest for the public to know the truth about this story. But they didn't allow me to fight public interest through the courts. So I've been through the court system. I've been imprisoned unjustly, unlawfully. I've watched people celebrate it. And I'm not perfect, yeah. I'm a fucking little shit at times. And if you could follow my life, fucking hell, I've been in some bad places over those 3 years. I've been lost, man. But I think all of that comes from you fucking lying, from your lies. So, Justice Nicklin, if you think that history remembers you as the most senior judge in our nation, not anymore, it would. Because 53 million people know you're a lying, corrupt bastard. They know that you lied. They know, and in your lie, the collateral damage in the middle of this lie was the head teacher of the school who turned to alcohol and abuse, who was I could have done a documentary about him. They closed down the school. The children that were deemed as liars when they done the most courageous thing. So
how did you tell your family what I'm going to do next?
I just asked them to support me on it.
I mean, I know the answer to this, but I've got to ask the question for people watching that don't know the answer.
I'm throwing myself by playing the film. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, go on then, lock me up.
And have they all supported you on your decision?
Yeah, they know that I had to do it. Still, I have to do it.
For your peace of mind?
Yeah, I regret. I don't want to live with regrets. I've regretted it for 3 years. I should have come out of court and played the film straight away. Said, you see, you're used to everyone bowing to you, the judge. Well, I'm not bowing to you, bruv. Not bowing to your corrupt bullshit. Not when it's lies. Not when you've destroyed so many children. The children, they destroyed all those kids' lives. That little girl, Charlie, was studying law. Grade A student. Why would she lie? Why would she come to... Jamal brought no witnesses. His school record is littered with lie, 117 disciplinaries. The judge ruled that the only person telling the truth in the whole case, 7 teachers that were covertly recorded were lying. It's like, how can you come this? It's impossible. And then I watch as the media when the witnesses come in to give evidence. So my sense of injustice in this case, yes, I can feel sorry for myself because I do. But Bailey come to live with me for 3 years, man. So I couldn't, even if I wanted to. When I was offered a deal to just plead, it would all disappear if I just give him £50,000. Otherwise, I'm going to lose everything. And I looked at Bailey, who's, do you know what? He's from a fucking tough upbringing. And he's a real good kid. He's a tough kid. He's a polite, decent little lad. A decent little English kid who was betrayed by everyone. I thought, I can't throw him under the bus. I fucking can't. And you know, and by playing the film, he knew what I was going to do. And he said, and then he rings me crying.
Let me interject so you can catch your breath, because I don't want this. I just want you to get things off your chest, because I know you bottle them up. I know you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders. You're one of the country's greatest leaders. There's now 1 million people on X that look to you for leadership. That is a lot of weight to put. That's a lot to put on one man. But just something completely random, I'm going to throw in there. Now, you've made it clear time and time again the specific things that you don't like about Islam, and I think the things that you don't like about Islam, I think it's a very, very, very fair point to make, and I think a lot of people feel the same way about you. They're obviously suppressed and scared to publicly share those opinions, but you've always said, we both have Muslim friends. I know some of your Muslim friends. You've always said, I haven't got a problem with Muslims, it's Islam. But because you've shone the light on the darkness and the sections of that ideology that are not compatible with us as a nation and the West civilization, you're now the low-hanging fruit, I feel, for the establishment to just make an example of, come rain or shine, and they don't care whether you're sat here sad and your family are suffering. They don't give a monkeys. They want to make an example of you to scare the rest of the British public. You keep quiet or this is what happens.
I am throwing myself. You see, you say they want to set an example of me. I think, go on then, fucking do it. That's where I'm at a minute. Go on, fucking do it. You give me 4 years and the world is going to wake up to your bullshit. That's not going to it's going to hurt me, but I'm willing to be hurt because I want to hurt you. I want to bring down your fucking tyrannical system. I want to bring down your legitimacy, your justice system. It's bullshit. There is no justice system. It's a weaponised legal system that when they want to take you down, like they did to Katie Hopkins. You know, Katie Hopkins, with this case, around Katie Hopkins, you know, it's difficult because prior to this case, I'm living happily in a new house, in a beautiful home that was built from scratch with my ex-wife and my 3 children. My kids I was in jail the first summer, so done a lovely garden, never got to enjoy the garden. I was in prison for the summer. Next year, bang, this happens. House has to be sold, empty for a year. The wife made a decision, the ex-wife, we split up. All of this, yes, it stems from my activism. It's like my ex-wife says, look, I didn't marry Tommy Robinson. I said, you knew what I was like when you married me, man. No, but I didn't marry Tommy Robinson. They're not her political beliefs. And lads, if you think you've been in the doghouse, you try getting fucking Osborne warnings for threats of acid on your wife's face and shit, or terrorism threats, which my family have to constantly live under that. So I know that every decision I make bears a brunt on them. Kids had difficult times, but they were at last 2 events, bruv. So they saw what their dad does because they have never seen it. I've never took them to a demonstration. I've never pushed my politics on them. They just know what they know what's said, but all they see now, which is great for me, whenever they're with me, it's just out of love. Everywhere I go.
And I know that.
They see it.
And we'll move on to things very quickly to get you hyped up. As a friend, it infuriates me because I know you. Yeah. I know you're full of love. I know how kind you are. I hear you organising people to be rehomed, have alarms fitted in their houses. I see you do good for everybody, including some Muslims. Yeah. You're not the devil they paint you out to be. So as a friend that knows you far better than the tabloids and these wallies on X that just think they do because they've got an opinion and fuck all else better to do, it irritates me. So I can only begin to imagine how it must frustrate you? And we'll come to that in a second. But I wanted just a small section of this interview, a small section that when you're in jail, it will take a bit of courage and strength to do it, but I'm here with you. I want a section of this interview that your entire family can watch time and time again if they need to whilst you're in jail. A message that's very difficult to say face to face, and you know there's never the right time, or there's someone in the room. Just something that you can tell them all off your own back. What would you say to them if they're watching this and you want to send them a message?
Fuck me up. If any of my kids took the path of life I've took, I'd be fucking terrified. So I picture what my mum must think. You know what I mean? I was thinking, fucking hell, you mad bastard. But then I also relayed the message to my kids, to my son. We have to be strong. We have to be strong. And this is the conversation I had. I had it the last time when I was going to jail. Sometimes doing the right thing is doing the wrong thing. My kids love Bailey. So Bailey was at our house for Christmas dinner. So Bailey became like a brother to my family. The kid who he lived with us for 3 years after the story in Huddersfield. So my kids know why I've done what I've done. And then they've managed to successfully see the events we've held and the love that I'm shown. And they know their dad. So they know that I'm full of love. But at the same time, I ask myself the question sometimes. Fucking, I'm not at home with my kids. I should be with my kids. I'm not there enough. Are they going to begrudge me when they're older?
And are you doing this for your kids?
I think it's, as I've said, this is far bigger than my kids. I don't want my kids to think I'm not thinking of my kids, but fucking, this is far bigger than my 3 kids. Yeah, England's changing forever. There's 1,000 years of history in this country.
Why do you love the country so much?
Because it's part of who we are. It's part of our history. It's part of my bloodline. It's part of, and it was the best. And what's it changing for? Are my children going to have a free, loving, safe environment? No, they're not. Now Luton's fucked. Now Luton's gone. So then you move from Luton. And then they can grow up in a little bubble and you can keep them in this little bubble. But when they come out of that bubble, they're in trouble. And the problems from there are just shifting anyway. The demographic replacement that's happening. So to have these conversations with my kids, I apologise to my kids for the things they have to think. Now, my son's seen me violently attacked. He's heard people say they want to stab us up in front of us. He's seen things he should never have to see. And then I think about what that must be like for a kid. And even at 14, when we was last, he said, Dad, I worry what about people to get me. You shouldn't have to worry about it.
And your mum?
But we shouldn't have to. My mum's petrified. She's petrified because of me going off the rails. But that's why she's always like, you have to be strong about it. But what's the alternative? To just cower? What is the alternative? To speak, to know that this is also wrong and remain silent on it? To watch and hear. You know, if you'd heard, so people listen to me, if you've sat with the families I've sat with, you've heard the stories I've heard, you've seen the pain I've seen in the families, and you know there's no voice for them. And then I've found myself in this position where I sort of accepted now that this is my destiny, yeah? I didn't for many years. Now, this is it for me. I'm meant to do this. I believe now I'm meant to do this. I'm in this position. And if that means going in like a fucking bomb, I'm going in like a bomb. So that's when it comes to the decision about the film. And I do believe that every time I felt down, something picked me up. But do you know how things have changed? When my eldest was at school, she's 17 now. When she was in school, she got a really hard time. Black Lives Matter time. She got a really hard time about me and my politics. And it's now changed that my youngest is now at school and all the kids are loving me with her. They're celebrating me. My kids are ringing me up with their friends because their friends want to see because their dad's great rather than their dad's a racist. Yeah. So I know that time will be kind to me. I know that history will be kind to me. And I know my kids will get a chance to see that. You know, when I wrote my first book, I always get back to a grift, don't I? You know, when I wrote my first book, I really wrote that. I'm surprised I'm here at 41. Fuck me, I shouldn't be here. You know, some people could see what the harm I've done to myself over those years. I shouldn't be here. But so when I wrote my first book, it was a book really to tell my children, here's the fucking truth.
This is who your dad is.
Yeah, this is who your dad is. And that's who he is. And that's why I've done what I've done. And it's developed on. But now I sit here And I think my kids and my grandkids will get to watch the documentaries we've produced. They'll get to see the 100,000 people in Trafalgar Square. They'll get to read the 4 best-selling books. They'll get to understand that their dad played a major part. Whether we win or lose, I believe we win. There's no other option. That their dad played a part in awakening the masses of Great Britain, in standing up against the globalist agenda to destroy our nation states, in standing up. There is a revolution brewing across Europe. You see it in the voting patterns. I want to play my part. And I always say, and I mean it, if someone's got to fight, I'll fight. I don't want my son to fight. I said, son, I've tried to give you the privileged upbringing that we didn't have, that you don't have to fight the way we had to fight, that you don't live in the endangered area or the dangerous situations that we grew up in Luton with the gang problems and the violence. I've tried everything to make sure you don't have that. And that's the same for the whole country. So I've seen the problems in Luton. I've seen it. I've lived it. And I always thought, you know what, I'll fight and die for Luton. I've always been tribal. I've been tribal about school when we used to fight other schools. It's our school. I've been tribal about my estate growing up. Then I'm tribal about Luton Football Club. Then I'm tribal about England. And I got to a point in Luton where I felt, we've tried to fight for this town and you fuckers have all stood on your asses. When we set the English Defence League up, at the time we set it up to say enough's enough here. I look at what the decay and what's happened now in the 15 years since we set up the EDL. Town's gone. Town's gone. There's nothing to fight for anymore. It's gone. Totally gone. I don't want Luton to become England. We need to wake up. We're in a race against time, man, and that's not me. I'm not calling on people to call up arms. I'm just saying, look, at what time are we going to make a stand? All we're asking you to do is speak.
Say something.
Just speak, man. If everyone spoke at the same time of what you think, it wouldn't leave people like me or other people to be battered or imprisoned, or because it would become mainstream conversation. And I know, I broke that bubble. I know. Even the interviews I've done this week with people I've done this week, I would never have sat with. They wouldn't have sat with me years ago. Yeah, Jordan Peterson. I sat with one of the most intellectual minds on the planet. 4 million views. I read the comments. They're all supportive. This imaginary facade that the government have put out that I'm the most hated man in Britain. Fucking walk down the street with me. I'd like to see Keir Starmer walk down the street. I'd like to see any politician walk down the street. You're hated, not us. You control the media. You may be able to bullshit people. We are the biggest threat to you.
I think a lot of people underestimate your intelligence. You've got the mind that can multitask and you can lead, you can delegate, and you're driven. You could have gone down that route and been a multi-millionaire, and I'm extremely confident of that.
I was at that stage before the English Defence League. 7 properties, 2 businesses. I was smashing it. Absolutely smashing it. I was smashing it, but I was also ducking and diving. I was also in the crowds, the wrong crowds, because that's where I've been brought up. If I was brought up in a different town, in a different environment, in a different school, things might have been different. But I don't want them to have been different, because I don't believe those people understand the real world. And I don't believe that. So people say, I said, there was a journal. So when I started the English Defence League, there was a man called Lars Hedegaard, famous, very famous in Denmark, like a real educated top journalist. He contacted me and said, can I come and spend a week with you? Yeah. So I said, yeah, come spend a week. And I drove him around for a week with me. He's fucking mental. We went 2 hours in the wrong direction, but we were all on the session, on the piss, and pretending we were trying to secretly session in the back of the car. We're on the way to EDL meetings. And Johnny said to me at the end of the week, he said, can I give you a bit of advice, Tommy? After seeing what's developing here. I needed to see it. Because I see now that it's not racist. It's a fucking uprising from the streets. It's coming from working class towns. He said, can I give you some advice? I said, what's that? He said, never wear a suit. I said, what do you mean? He said, never lose contact of who you are. Always be you. Yeah. And Lars, I come to really respect Lars, because Lars lived under 24-hour police guard. He had an attempt on his life by terrorists. He's not very well now. He created the Danish Free Press Society. I was invited to Danish Parliament and I won an award for my work by the Free Press Society. I remember when I was giving my speech, I looked and Lars was on the front row of the Parliament. I said, Lars, can I tell you something? Because I never forgot the conversation. I said, I had to put a suit on, bro. I said, I'm in Parliament, man. I said, but when people say, I see comments and people say, well, he's a bit rash and he's a bit this and he should talk a bit like this. And then what become one of the politicians? That I don't want to be anyway. The reason why people relate to me is because I'm not one of them. I'm one of you. I'm a normal person. Yeah? I'm a normal lad who makes mistakes, who makes fuck-ups, who've done wrong, who fucking had punch-ups, who fucking had all the same problems you've had, who's gone out and done this and I've done the same, with all the same flaws. Yeah, but my direction and my determination has been pushed on me, I think. And I've had choices to make. And I guess that, whether that not back down, I won't back down. I will die before I back down. And is guaranteed. I will never, ever, at this point where I've come to, which is why I decided to play the film, I stood there to 100,000 people and said, you know what, you want to send me to jail? Fuck you, judiciary. Here's the film. Let the world see it. And then I sit there and think, well, kill me in jail then. Kill me. That'll be the spark for the revolution. Something's going to change. There's something that's going to happen that's out of any of our control that's going to change the direction of our nation. Bloody Sunday changed the direction of Northern Ireland. Who knows what it's going to be? It wasn't 26 dead kids in Manchester. That didn't change fuck all. Something's got to happen that's going to change the direction of Great Britain, that's going to awaken to the masses. I will play my role in that. I hope it ain't me getting killed. I hope. And if my kids hear me talk like this, they probably think, Dad, what the fuck, man? What the fuck? What about us? But I just think, I believe wholeheartedly in what I say. And I believe in my cause that much that I am willing to sacrifice and I am willing to give. And I always say through sacrifice comes success. And what is it? Am I sacrificing much in comparison in reality? So I can sit there, people watch this and feel sorry for me. I feel sorry for myself. Fuck me. Look what our previous generation's done. Look at the previous conflicts we had with Nazi Germany. Look at 14-year-olds pretending they were 16 to go and volunteer to run into fields and get shot dead. Why did they do that? They've done that for the greater good of their country and the greater good of their community. And what we've become is a selfish bunch of fuckers who think about the greater good of us. And I still think about the greater good of me. That doesn't mean I'm not thinking of myself at times as well. And I want to progress and I want to be successful and I want good things as well. But at the same time, we need to look at ourselves as a community, ourselves as a country, and not think of ourselves individually.
Can we talk about working class men for a little while? In fact, working class families. Because every person I interview at the moment, without fail, they come on for me to interview them to find out about their lives. They cannot help themselves but talk about the state of the country and how disappointed they are because they are disenfranchised.
We're betrayed. We've been betrayed. Totally betrayed.
The working class. So when you say, because a lot of people have said to me over dinner, oh, if Tommy was to, wear a suit or speak differently,
I wouldn't be Tommy.
He'd go all the way in politics. So my response is, and I want you to tell me what you think about this. I say, well, it's all well and good Tommy becoming another Nigel Farage, but then who's going to represent the working class? Because Nigel Farage is the closest one to the working class, and he doesn't represent them.
He fucking hates them. He's a banker. He wears a suit and puts a pint of beer in front of us to fool us all to think he's one of the lads. He's never been in a working class environment past 7 p.m.
So other than you, can you think of anyone in the UK that is standing up to the working class Brits?
We don't just have a working class in the UK, we have an underclass. And that underclass have been totally betrayed. The working class have been betrayed. And they're mocked. They're actually fucking mocked. The biggest academic underachievers in Great Britain are white working class children. Well, what are the government doing about it? Fuck all. You see, I think it was like the percentages. I think 40% of black kids on free meals go to universities. 7% of white working class kids. We're not succeeding academically. Because we've been forgotten, neglected, downtrodden, loss of identity. It's why everyone's talking like they're black. It's why they're converting to Islam, because they're fucking lost. And they're lost because you've beaten them down and you've attacked their core identity. And I think that we need to get back to celebrating. That's what the whole cultural thing was. It's a cultural, and I'm not saying that I have all the answers, man. We are ordinary people. I look at the speeches. I look at yourself, Liam, yeah? I look at the struggles you've been through. I've spoke to Mayor Toosey earlier. I look at Paul Thorpe. I look at all these people thinking, we're ordinary fucking people trying to do extraordinary things. We're just normal people, normal bods. It shouldn't be our job. We shouldn't have to be doing this. I shouldn't have to be leading a cultural movement. The fucking government, all people who are elected to represent the people and protect Great Britain should be doing their fucking job. Why are we having to get involved in this? I could have been happily living along in my career and my success as a businessman, which is where I was at, before you fucking flooded my town with Islam and terrorists. And then told us to shut up when we try and talk about it. You're racist, you're far right.
Yeah, I want to touch base on the far right.
Yep.
So I've had Richard Grannon on recently. Very, very smart guy, very politically savvy, and he's interviewed you on his podcast, The Strongest Argument, and he said to me that Tommy's not even right-wing, let alone far right. So I want to know, is there actually a far right that exists?
Yeah, there is now.
In the UK?
Yeah, there is now.
And what do you think about the actual far right? Not the people that are angry, shouting in the streets and police forces, actual far-right morons.
I see many of them as impressionable, as desperate, and they're being... So a lot of the far-right leaders, like Mark Collett and these people, they're not working class, okay? They're middle class, they're intelligent, and then they're dragging in young working class kids to their poisonous ideology. But I've watched the growth of the far right from when I started my activism in 2009. Remember, we didn't call it on with Islam, we called it on with Blood and Honour, we called it on with Combat 18. We had running battles with the far right. So, because the ideology of the average lad in England isn't for a Nazi state, yeah, isn't for a fascist state, isn't for deporting every non-white person from the country and hating on them, yeah. But that is a growing trend. And so long as you leave the discussion of population replacement and demographical change, and the mainstream don't talk about it, which none of them are, Nigel Farage isn't open to it, it leaves the growing voice that's discussing this issue, which is scary to most Brits. The only people talking about it are the further the right. They're the only ones having the conversation, really. So a lot of us, even us, have failed on the conversation of that, which is what we've looked at in this population replacement. And then there's a real growing anti-Jew movement, which has become now just totally mainstream. Totally unthinkable 5 years ago. When I look at it now, I think, fuck, if I was a Jew, I'd be petrified. I'd be really scared. Because since October 7th, what we've seen in alignment of is the Nazis, the far left, all coming together with the Islamic radicals. There's like an army of them, all hating Jews. And it's an easy option is to just blame the Jews. You don't get much blowback for blaming the Jews. Jews are at the top of many companies and many corporations and many NGOs. Jews rise to the top through their intellect, through their hard work many of the times. I look at the question in this, and I look at population replacement, and I think it's a lazy fucking ass answer to blame the Jews. I get a big blowback for this. I don't hate Jews. Show me a Jewish gang in the UK. Show me a Jewish heroin dealer. There's none in prison because they don't commit crime. Any Jews I've met have been accountants or fucking lawyers or good, hard-working people. And any Jews I know actually love their country. I look at Avi. I respect Avi Yemeni. Ezra Levant. Ezra's Jewish. He's been a great friend of me. In fact, he's flying here to help me now. I see so when we have this discussion, when they say the Jews, yeah, it's like, and they pick fault with Israel. I think, so do you think every Jewish person is representative of the Israeli government that you've got a problem with? So that would mean that Joe Biden's government, every American's represented by Joe Biden's government, are they? Or is there a connect between the cabal in control and the people? So I believe Jews are misrepresented by their leaders. Their leaders are fucking cowards as well. The elitist leaders of the Jewish community, the ones who have targeted us and demonised me for years, have actually fucking betrayed their own people. They're having photos with the people who want to fucking gas them. Trying to say, oh, diversity is our strength. Go fuck yourself. No, it's not. They want to kill you. You now know they do, from the river to the sea. They don't want you. And it's like, oh, the state of Israel are flooding Europe, and they're purposely flooding Europe with all these people. But why? It's the Jews who are at more risk. It's the Jewish people in Great Britain who are at more risk. It's the Jews across Europe that are at more risk.
And do Jewish corporations fund you?
Never had my funding in my life of them. Never a penny.
A lot of people say that.
Yeah, I would have funding. Give me some. It's all bullshit.
Is there no truth in it?
There's no truth in it all. And I've had the biggest financial investigation, the biggest bankruptcy investigation that Hope Not Hate took over, all of my accounts and everything. Don't you think it'll be public? Where's the fucking evidence of it?
Although we're friends, I'm never going to pry into your finances.
Yeah.
Until now, seeing as we're on the subject of
You've been paying for dinner. You've been paying for dinner all week. Tough to see you. Right, I've got 100 euros left in my pocket. Accounts are frozen. Urban Scoop, the company I work for, their accounts are frozen.
But I see it so many times said that you're funded by the Jews, and I just want to ask the question: are you? What does that even mean? What do they?
What that means is you
Why
don't.
do they think it?
What that means is you don't hate the Jews. So I speak up for Israel. Yeah, I also speak up for Baluchistan. Go Google the videos. I spoke up for Baluchistan. I also speak up for the Christians in Nigeria. My first ever demonstration under the English Defence League had a banner saying, Nigerian Christians, we stand with you. Yeah? Am I funded by Nigeria? I also look at Baluchistan. So Baluchistan was the land of the Baluch people, which we created Pakistan. Yeah? And then Pakistan come in with the Pakistani military and took all the wealth of Baluchistan and subjugated the Baluch people. Took all their minerals, all their wealth, all their money, all everything, and they treated them like slaves. Where's the calls for freeing Baluchistan? No one gives a fuck. Why not? Because they're not Jews. They tried to negotiate peace so many times for a two-state solution. It's the Palestinians who refused it every time. And then I look at the war. So you've got Israel here, which is a thriving democracy, yeah, where Muslims can become part of politicians and that. There's 2 million Muslim Arabs who live in the state of Israel, peacefully. 2 million. I went there and saw things that you couldn't have in London. I went and saw 1,000 young Muslim Arabs, and they're on camels, yeah? And then I saw a Jewish family sitting with their kippas on having a picnic. And I thought, if that's 1,000 young Muslims in London in a park, and they were Jews, they'd give them a hard time. They'd get shit. They'd be getting fucking accosted. But not in the state of Israel. So I went there and saw things, and I researched things to try and understand the conflict, to try and understand what's going on there, to try and understand who's right and who's wrong, and whose land is it, and what are the rights on this side, and there's wrongs on both sides. But the whole Jewish thing is like, I don't hate Jews. Let me make it very fucking clear. What comes first to me? England. I'd sacrifice for it. I'd fight for it, yeah? Great Britain, okay? Israel ain't even on it. I just don't hate them. And I comment on it because there's a fucking massive war going on with, and I understand jihad. So the Islamic jihad that they're facing, we will face. If you think of what they done on October 7th, look how emboldened they got all around the whole world, the terrorists. Look how confident they were in London, all across the West. You think if they didn't obliterate Israel and wipe out all those Jews and kill them, well, you think they're just going to stop there? They want Islamic world domination. That's their mindset, to dominate the world, not to dominate Israel. Israel's in the way. Once Israel comes, they're coming straight through. They're coming anyway. They're coming anyway. In our lifetime, they're coming. In our lifetime, they'll launch a jihad in Europe, in European countries. They're going to collapse. There's going to be war. There's going to be bloodshed. And it's going to be our politicians' fault because they should have listened.
So you've been over there, you've done your own investigations, you stand up for the Jewish community. It's just an easy thing for somebody to throw at you. You must be funded by the Jews, and that rumour's just spread, and that's that. It's not true. Done.
They got it from, I worked for Rebel Media in 2015. Rebel Media, Ezra's Jewish. I received a £5,000 a month salary. I was a fucking good journalist. I received I was a better journalist than in the mainstream. I was receiving £5,000 a month salary from Rebel Media, and Rebel Media received funding from a gentleman called Bob Shillman, who I don't know and I've never met, who's a very successful businessman, who's Jewish. You got money off Rebel Media? Yeah. I worked every day. That's my job. I worked there for a year. I received a payment. Never met the bloke you're talking about, but they piece it all together. And then I've wore a t-shirt. And then when I went to Israel, I bought a hat, what's it called? Mossad t-shirt. Well, when I went to New York, I bought a New York Police Department t-shirt. And I didn't mean I was in the New York Police Department. Do you think if I was working for Mossad, I'm wearing a fucking Mossad t-shirt from a souvenir shop on the Golan Heights? It's just moronic. But they put it together, and it's an easy get out for why I make the stand I make. And I've made the stand I've made since 2009, since I started the English Defence League, because I've seen the Jew hatred growing up in Luton. I've seen Jews have to lock themselves inside the town hall when they're remembering the Holocaust, when all the Muslims come and target them. I've watched it. I've grown up with Muslims who have made open comments about Jews and the hatred of Jews. So I understand it. So that's why. No other reason. No one's buying me, mate. There's no amount of money you can give me to say anything or do anything.
No. Okay. So you're due in court on the 28th of October.
Yeah.
I now want to talk about the trial, and I want to talk about jail.
Yep.
And I want to talk about what jail is going to be like for Tommy Robinson, how you're planning to navigate your way through your sentence, what your sentences could possibly be, because I know that there's different options. So let's start with, you're in court on the 28th. What's going to happen?
I believe when I land in the UK, I'll be detained. That's what I believe. I believe I'll be detained and imprisoned and put before a High Court judge. I don't know what their intentions are. I don't know what they want to happen on the 26th of October. I believe the 26th of October, which I'll put a video out to everyone, if I am detained, will still be a massive success, and it needs to be, and it's even more reason for you to attend. I believe that I'll go before a judge on the 28th of October, and I'll fundamentally be put in prison for contempt of court, and I believe what the judge will say is truth or not. Documentary is truth or not. He'll say the judge give me an injunction. So there's a legal injunction binding, which there isn't because he didn't legally give me it. But that's what I believe they'll say. And you didn't just breach it, but you literally told us to fuck off. You purposely breached it to an astronomical level where 53 million people have watched the film. And what I say in my statement to the court, do you want me to read you out my statement to the judge?
Yeah.
Let me read you because I wrote it. Not just for the judge, this is for the country, this is for Americans, because I think people are going to look at this case. I'm a journalist, I've made a documentary, I'm going to get years in prison, yeah? Who knows what's going to happen in prison? But I said, I believe in freedom of speech and freedom of the press, and I fucking do, yeah? And I'm not a coward journalist. I'll sacrifice for freedom of speech and freedom of press. But my duty as a journalist is to uncover the truth, and I've worked for years to shine a light on challenges in society that no one else is willing to speak about. Have you watched the documentary, Your Honour? So I want him to, have you? Have you fucking seen it, Your Honour? Because if you have, why the fuck am I saying it? Yeah? Anyway, If you have watched the film in silence, Your Honour, you will have seen that I didn't make accusations and I didn't make assumptions in the film. I let the witnesses give their testimonies and said that Jamal, in his right to reply, denies all of the accusations against him. I explained that Justice Nicklin's verdict, and I explained I lost the case. There was nothing else I could have included because Jamal didn't bring any evidence to court. He didn't bring any witnesses to court to speak for him apart from his father, Jihad. His dad's name's Jihad.
So I want it.
Fucking middle. No teachers, no social workers, no friends. Justice Nicklin's verdict in this case is extraordinary, and while the case caused my divorce and bankruptcy, far more important is the impact his verdict on this had on those courageous children who came to court to testify in my defence. Justice Nicklin effectively disregarded their testimonies. He said he didn't know why they were lying, but called them all liars nevertheless. 5 kids, just made up. They made up. Before my involvement in the case, they just made it all up. The teachers that were on covert recordings saying that he comes to attack girls, saying that he got caught with a knife and screwdriver, school records that said he stabbed someone, they all just made up. Everything's a lie. Yeah? That's what the judge found. So Charlie, a grade A student, didn't even like me or support me, but was courageous enough to come to court to testify. She had a breakdown. She was sectioned. Justice Nickling, you caused that. Bailey McLaren tried to commit suicide. Thankfully, he started to rebuild his life. He has to overcome the lie that the whole country was told he was a racist bully. Many others have been affected. The collateral damage of the scandalous verdict is too great for the public not to know the truth. Some people still believe the legacy media is there to report what is happening, the truth, rather than push strongly biased accounts driven by ideology or political agendas. Well, in this case, the press only attended the court the day that Jamal and his father gave their accounts. Then they left court and didn't bother to return to hear the testimonies of the children who were witnesses in my defence. The whole balanced picture could not be reported by the legacy media because they weren't there. They weren't interested in what the children testifying for the defence had to say. And then Justice Nicklin tried to prevent the whole picture being given to the public by issuing his injunction, banning the film. Justice Nicklin has banned me from presenting the same evidence that was presented in court. If it's such a clear-cut case, why is it necessary to hide the facts from the public? If they watch the testimonies of the witnesses, surely they'll come to the same outcome as Justice Nicklin. What is the agenda? Well, the injunction was apparently to protect the Jamal's reputation. Yet it's not the reputation of Jamal that has been damaged by this legal circus. It's the fucking court. You have obliterated the judiciary's reputation on a world stage, and I'm happy I've done that. Yeah? So, it's very telling that Jamal hasn't asked me to be prosecuted in this case, neither has his lawyers. The case has been brought against me by the Attorney General, by the government. In my view, there are similarities with the Post Office scandal. Powerful interests hiding the truth for their own purposes regardless of the terrible consequences of those innocent children I have mentioned and others. My conclusion. If you're asking me whether I plead guilty or not guilty, yes, I'm guilty of showing the film in Trafalgar Square on the 27th of July. I made the decision to play that film. I'm grateful to Elon Musk and X for allowing the film to remain available, for standing for freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And although not for you, Your Honour, nor your court, nor the entire justice system, I do hold contempt for Justice Nicklin's ruling and his attempt to hide the truth from the public. Justice Nicklin fell out of his own father. He did, yeah. He fell out of his own dad before my case, arguing about me. His dad joined the political party I was part of. Right? He should have recused himself before the case even began. The world is watching. I stand for truth, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press. If that puts me on the wrong side of Justice Nicklin's injunction, so be it. If I have to sit in a jail cell for speaking the truth, well, I'm one of many people right now that this government is imprisoning for things they say. Political prisoners. If I have to sit in jail for refusing to be silenced, I'm prepared for that. Thank you, Your Honour. And then I'll go, oh, fucking hell, you got 2 years. And then I'll be that bitter and I'll be like, that's my moment. And then I'll be sitting in a cell thinking, for fuck's sake, bruv.
So today is Wednesday the 16th of October.
Yeah.
So in 12 days, you're going to read that statement and you believe that you're going to go to jail and people won't be watching this interview until you are in jail.
Well, I hope they're all watching it and somehow the judge saw light and said, yeah, right, Tommy, you've done a great service to your country. Here, off you go home. And then I can get myself out of the mess I've been in for the last 3-4 years with this shit hanging over my head and start to rebuild my life because I haven't, do you know what, even I've been saying this week, even I went out full English this morning, what's the fucking point? I'm going to be locked up for the next fucking 2 years. And I've been saying that for 3 years because I knew this was coming.
And you know you're going to jail.
And I know I'm going to jail and I know what jail, I'll be honest, I think I've been living like or thinking like I'm coming to the end of my time now. This is coming to the end of my time. So whether it be through the imprisonment, what they do, whether I get got in jail, I've been thinking like this is, if I'm going out with a bang. So you can all fuck yourselves. I'll play that film. I'm not going to back down, Chuck. Do your best.
And tell me what prison's like for Tommy Robinson. Because prison for Tommy Robinson is obviously different to an ordinary prisoner.
Every jail I walked in, I remember I walked into Bedford jail and I walked in, and Dean Wright, his name's Bo, he was doing like 12 years, some boy I grew up with for kidnapping someone. And I walked in, he goes, bruv, you're fucked. I said, shut up, you little prick, I'm doing 28 days. You're doing 12 years, you're fucked, yeah? But every jail I go into, I started laughing. I'm fucked. You're doing 12 years, bruv, you've got 50 quid for kidnapping someone. I'm out in 28 days. And I come out, and I said confidently, I'll come out of here looking like this. So I know what I have to do to survive. I'm a survivor. So in my prison situations, I've had fights, I've been arrested for fights. In Peterborough jail, in Bedford jail, I had violent alterations. I believe within hours of me being in prison, everyone outside will hear of violent confrontations with me. But I'm not, as I tell the prison when I get, I'm gonna defend myself. I will make sure that at every opportunity I come out of this jail looking the way I do. So I have to do that. Now that puts me in a position where I have to become someone I don't want to become, or do something I don't want to do. The minute I go into jail, I'm not going to get got. Not without. I'm ready. I'll have to be ready. I'm fucking terrified. Each jail I've gone into. And Woodhill, I got locked in. I lost my teeth in Woodhill. I got fucked up. Peterborough, I nearly got done with that. I nearly got boiling water with sugar. But I battered the geezer before he done it. And I got arrested on 24 hours police custody. I said, what do you want me to do? Wait till he does me with boiling water? So when I get to the jail this time, whichever jail it is, I'll just say straight, exactly the same. I will defend myself. The first person that comes near me, I'm going to defend myself. And that might mean some innocent person, because of my mindset is everyone's out to attack me. Well, the first person that comes near me is getting it. And that's unfortunately the position I have to take. I have to survive. I can't wait. When I went to Bedford prison, I got walked into Bedford prison and I walked in, I got in reception, I looked and I said, you got a brother called Mark? To the reception screw, the prison orderly. He goes, yeah. I said, I know your brother. He said, I know you do. I said, mate, who's in here? So I was checking because Bedford's my local jail. So I said, it's Johnny Owens in here. It's Jason West, kids I grew up with. I said, who's in here? What wing's there? To find out, there's lads in there who I think would have my back. And we found out most of the Muslims were on A-wing. And there were Somalians who just done there's fucking 10,000 Somalians for some reason have been shipped to fucking Milton Keynes and they're all killing each other. Yeah? So we found out there was big killing between the gangs and they're on A-wing. So they're doing 45 years. Now they're not going to beat me up. They're going to finish me. Yeah? They've got nothing to lose. So that makes a big difference. What category jail I go to, what sentences they're doing, who's in there. So I found out all the Pakistani gangs from Luton. And then the geezer went, I said, right. So we found out the best place for me would be B-Wing. So I said, bruv, get me on B-Wing. So he's gone upstairs, he's come back, he said, I'm sorry, bruv, you're going on A-Wing. I said, didn't we just establish that's where all the Muslims are? He goes, yeah, but you can go on protection, which is, I said, mate, I'm never going to ask you for protection. It's because you're going to ask for protection when you get to jail, which is what paedophiles do. Yeah, so you go with paedophiles. I said, how am I fucked by asking for protection? I said, I've done nothing to warrant protection. I've done nothing wrong to be wanting to need protection. I said, you've got a duty of care. Yeah, so I said, give me a pen and paper. So in the prison system, if you've got two rival gangs, you've got gang A and gang B, they're not allowed to be put together. You're not allowed to. So if you've got two gangs that are at war with each other in Luton, then the gang members aren't allowed on the same wings because they'll be hurt. I said, do you fucking know who I am? You're about to fucking put me on a wing full of all the Muslims and all the main ones, all the killers. So what the fuck? So I got a pen and paper and I wrote down all this and I went up and I said, there you go, because I wanted to make a paper trail. I thought, yeah, if I'm going on there and I get hurt, it's on you. And I've told you beforehand. So I give him the paper trail, sent it up. He comes back down and he said, you're going on A-Wing? I said, sound, let's go, boys. Let's go on A-Wing. And as we were walking on to A-Wing, I said to the two governors, I said, you ready, boys? I said, well, I said, well, fucking watch what I do in there. And as we walk onto A-Wing, we were coming on the wing, and I mean, like, there's landings. So if you picture a prison system, there's like 3 landings, and A-Wing is the biggest wing, 330 prisoners, I think, on A-Wing. And everyone's on the landings. They're all howling as I'm walking on. They're like, fucking Tommy Robinson. They're all fucking cheering, not cheering against me, like fucking giving it. So as they escorted me to my cell, they put me in my cell, I went straight to the window, I said, you fucking wankers. I went mad. And I started losing, and I was screaming out the window. And so I could hear some black lads said, who the fuck is this geezer? And they were like, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead. I said, how many years do you think I've heard that for? Fucking 5 years. I've had 2 black eyes to shit houses. So I'm screaming out the window, but I'm shitting myself, yeah? And I know I'm fucking dead here, yeah? I'm fucking dead. And I'm like, I'm on the wing, you can't. So I'm on the fucking wing. And then they're like, so they're all saying they're going to kill me. So 10 minutes later, door opens for lunch, which is servery, yeah? I can't get got in my cell. I'm dead. If they get me in my cell and 10 of them get me in my cell, I ain't getting out of it. So the minute the door opens, I'm out, straight to the canteen. I come down to the canteen, I said, boys, who's fucking Muslim? And the Dion Ellis, this little gangbanger, Like, he's a little crazy. I know his brother and sister. I grew up with them. He turns around and goes, "You actually, bruv, look, I'm Muslim." And then the white boy next to him, I didn't know who the white boy was at the time. McDonald goes, "Yeah, I'm fucking Muslim." Boom. I'm scrapping across the whole canteen, fighting. I have to, yeah? I've kicked the fuck out of him. And as I'm getting pulled away, then I see another black boy called Barco, who I grew up with. I said, "You fucking bruv," because he had a big beard, because everyone goes Muslim. And it's all hell's kicking off. And I looked up, and all the screws had come, broke it all up. And I looked at the governor, I thought, "You fucking wanker," because the governor's standing there watching. Well, that didn't go the way you lot planned, did it? Yeah? So then they pulled me upstairs and they put me back in the cell. But I knew I have to do that. Yeah? I don't want to do that. I'm fucking scared. I'm soaking wet with adrenaline. I'm fucking petrified. But by doing that, I'm straight down the block. I'm on solitary confinement. That's my protection mechanism. So I'm in a position where I'm put in that position. And then when I get put down the block, I'm down the block, and the Muslim who are beat up, they bring him in. And I'm looking through the thing, and he shouts in the cell next door. He goes, "Yaxley." I'm like, what? Because everyone knows me. He goes, "Bruv, man, I don't want no beef." I was like, "Who the fuck is that?" He goes, "Yaxley, man, I don't want no, I'll squash it, yeah, squash it." And I'm looking through, and then as they took him out, I thought, fucking McDonald, I knew him, yeah. I grew up with him. He's converted in jail. Two brothers grew up in Cutler's Green up the estate for me. I knew their dad. I said, "You fucking little shithouse, what's going on?" I said, "We converted for." But it was all adrenaline and madness at the time. But then I'm put in the cell, and then I'm held in isolation because as a punishment. So I have to then be in that position. I'm back in that position. So I currently am awaiting, which is, I can sit here and sound confident about it. I'm not, yeah? I don't know what's happening to me next week. I'm going to land. I'm probably going to be put in a maximum security jail, probably, yeah? Which was Woodhill last time, where they locked me in a room with them and got fucked up and bad. They put me on the wing with them in Winchester, I was fighting. They put me on the wing with them in Peterborough, I was fighting. They put me in the wing with Bedford, where I was fighting. So I'm either going to be fighting for my fucking life, but I will fight for my life because I've got no fucking choice. I've got no choice. And that may mean more charges. I may end up in a position where I face charges. I don't want, you're putting me in a bad position and you're putting the Muslims in a bad position. Because whoever comes near me, I'm going to defend myself. Because I don't have a choice but to. I want to come out of jail looking nice.
The last time you was in jail,
The last time they put me on bail march. The last time actually was the time before that was terrible, but the last time was fair, totally fair. And it was a situation where the prison, when I got in there, that's Belmarsh prison, maximum security, I was in for fucking, this is a civil offence. How the fuck, so last time I was in for contempt of court, a civil offence. I'm in a maximum security jail on a unit built for Ian Huntley. I went into prison and left prison without seeing anyone else. I'm sat in a unit on my own for 23.5 hours a day. They opened my cell for 2 hours a day. I went into I didn't see anyone. Opened the door and they fucked off. So I was just on my own. But it was a unit. So in this unit, it's a special unit, built specifically because, say like Ian Huntley, they can't bring him in the visiting hall. Well, you ain't going to be able to bring me in the visiting hall now. I was fighting in a visiting hall in Bedford. Any prison I go to, what you think there's going to be a visit and I'm going to go sit in a hall full of prisoners, full of Muslims? We're scrapping straight away.
were the screws in general good to you or not good to you?
Great, absolutely great. In fact, every jail I've been into, apart from Woodhill and Huntley, the screws have been great. Screws are good lads. Like, I know people won't like saying that, but many of them are ex-forces. The governor couldn't have been... Do you know what? I was used to, because Onley the time before was so bad. So when my door opened, I'm put on this little unit, and the governor comes to see you each day when you're in solitary. So the door opened, I said, "Fuck off, shut the door." Yeah, I was rude, I was horrible. I was like, "Shut the fucking door." Because I expected the same abuse that had happened in the previous ones, and I'd planned for a demonstration outside the jail on the Saturday. So the governor come in and said, "Tommy, can I talk to you about what's going to go on?" Like, I don't really need a demonstration outside my prison. It's going to cause me mayhem. I said, "Gov, I just want to be my rights. I want my visits." Because you know what they done last time? So I'm in Onley. And again, when I go to jail, I think I'm going to get killed here. Yeah? So I wrote fucking heartbreaking letters to my kids, detailing why I've done stuff. Real fucking emotional letters. They fucking didn't send them. So you just sit there, you put all that in, your heart into it, and then they say the letters have gone into your property, they're not being sent. I'm like, what? So fucking, and it's such a fucking, I know, when you're in jail, a little thing's a fucking big thing, man. So you take all the time to bleed your heart out, and then they fucking just refuse to send it. And then they fucked with my mail, they fucked with everything. So when I met this governor, and I just said, and he said, "We've got a demonstration." I said, "Shut the fucking door, man. Shut the fucking door." And then the next time I said, "Look, I don't want to be played. I get my mail, I want to send my mail, and I want to have a phone call to my family. I don't, because they locked me in they only let me out at a certain time when my kids were at schools. So the only time I was allowed a phone call when I was in on-leave, I couldn't bring my kids for a week. So all these things, so I just said to the government, I just want to be treated fucking normally, man. And I don't want all the bullshit. I said, I need to exercise, man. And he said, okay. And he was proper sound. Like I was so, and he goes, okay. And if you get that, will you stop the demonstrations? I said, yeah, totally. I'll make sure no one ever comes to jail again. I said, can I have an exercise bike? Because everyone else gets to go gym. I'm not allowed to leave the unit. So I said, can I just have an exercise bike with some weights? He said, you can't have some weights, but I'll get you an exercise bike. So do you know how good that was for me? Fucking an hour a day, I just bashed this exercise bike. But when you're locked up all day, that was my real fucking music on, smashed it for an hour every day. But little things like that. And then my wife at the time got diagnosed with melanoma cancer, skin cancer. And I'm fucking on the phone like, what the fuck, man? He made sure I got out extra for phone calls whenever I needed to. He was so sound, man. And I respected, totally. And then there was talk of a demonstration, and he's opened my door. He said, "I thought we had an agreement." I said, "We have got an agreement." He goes, "Well, fuck, I'm hearing people are coming to the jail and tell me." I said, "Let me use the phone." So I used the phone. I said, make sure no one fucking comes near the prison, because I've had a gentleman's agreement with the governor that just let me have and then I had my visits. My family were brought in, and although I spent the time on my own, I was safe. You know what I mean? I didn't have to worry. I was safe. There was no worry about my safety. It was fucking long.
Talk to me about when Ross Kemp paid you a visit.
Yeah, so Ross Kemp, that was in Belmarsh, and he come in, and do you know what? So he said, "Do you know who's been in this cell before you?" I said, "Who?" He said, "Ian Huntley." And then he named some other fucking mass murderer. I said, "Fucking hell, I'm in here for asking a paedophile how they felt about their verdict. How insane is that?" But I spoke to him, and after he'd done his filming, he went out, and then he come back in. And I said, "Ross, we've met before." He said, "What?" I said, "We've met before, mate. So about 10 years ago, you come up onto the Farley Hill estate representing Labour, and we chased you off." Because he come up, because you know what, Ross Kemp's actually middle-class posh boy. Did you know? Yeah, so he's actually a middle-class posh boy, and his wife's a journalist. But do you know what, I actually changed so he come up on the Farley Hill estate. Now, Labour fucked the Farley Hill. You flooded our estate with all these fucking heroin dealing scumbags. So when he come on the estate, we all went over and gave him a load of shit. And fuck off the estate. And he pretty much got chased off the estate. So I said, yeah, that was me. I'm talking about when I was younger, me and my mates. And then when I spoke to him, he come back in the cell afterwards and he shook my hand and he said, "I can understand why people follow you." And then I watched, and he got me emotional, because I fucking always get emotional. I just cried my eyes out for half of this. But anything to do with my kids, and I was getting ready to come back out of jail. I'd sat in that room for 4 months. But the last time I'd been in jail, I thought I was fine. But when I come out, it hit me like a fucking brick wall, and I wasn't fine. And then for a long time, I was fucked. So I'm at that point where I'm excited to go out. He said, "Well, you're excited to go out?" And I'm thinking, yeah, I am. I'm also a bit worried. So I was excited to go home, but I was thinking, am I going to be fucked again? Because I didn't know last time I was fucked. I thought I was all right. But I've just sat in this room for 4 months again. I ain't left the room, I ain't seen anyone. So what's it going to be like when I get back out? So I'm excited to go out, but I was also scared to go out. And then I was also worried to go out about how it's going to be connecting with the kids again, because the last time was a problem. I couldn't connect. I felt isolated. I felt like I didn't want anyone around me. Do you know what I mean? Any fucking noise, I was like, fuck off. Fuck away from me. To everyone. Because I've been sat on my own for fucking 5 months. Just sitting there on my own. And then get used to it. And then you want to be on your own. So in that mad sense, and that's when I was talking to Ross Kemp, and I got a bit emotional about it. But then Ross Kemp got a disclaimer. If you watch the documentary, he put a disclaimer about coming to talk to me. He don't put a disclaimer. His whole career is built off meeting murderers and criminals and that. There's no disclaimers about the killers. There's a disclaimer about talking about Tommy Robinson. It's like, what the fuck, man? My controversial opinions. It's like, what controversial opinions? They're not controversial. You just make them controversial. They're actually mainstream opinions. But Ross, then I saw him on Piers Morgan, and they had him on Good Morning Britain or something. And they said that now we're about to hear about Tommy Robinson. And I believe, after meeting Ross Kemp and shaking his hand, and he seemed very fair, he was nice. I believe he refused to hammer me, which is what they were lining up. You saw before the break they were lining him up, and then when they had him on, he didn't talk about me. So I believe that he thought what happened to me was wrong, because I said to him, "Do you think it's right I'm in here? I'm in here for another 5 months or whatever, because I asked convicted people how he feels." I'm the first ever journalist or first ever person to be imprisoned under this law. Like, it's fucking insane.
You just mentioned Piers Morgan. Now, of late, some very high-profile characters they've reached out to you, they've let you on their platform, they've asked you very fair questions, you've given very honest responses, and from the outside looking in, it seems like you've gathered their support, like the likes of Jordan Peterson, Elon Musk regularly likes some of your tweets. Why I feel somebody like Piers Morgan, who's always got a lot to say about a lot of things, should have had you on so that you can talk about your Silence documentary. What has prevented him from doing that?
He's a coward, basically. He's a coward. His show's called Uncensored. Really?
Is it a personal thing?
Yeah, it's personal because it's personal because I made him look like a fool the first time I went on his show. And it's also personal because he's a star of my documentary Silenced. Piers Morgan encouraged vigilante attacks against Bailey. He demanded severe retribution against a 15-year-old child who drove him to attempt his life. And Piers has never answered for that. Now, Piers should be a man and correct his wrong. He's definitely watched the film because we sent journalists went to track him down at his property and question him about it. So he's watched the film. We know he's watched the film. 53 million people watched the film. He should have owned it. He should have come out and said, "You know what, I fucked up." Just like he did with the vaccine. Tell everyone to get the vaccine and calling everyone, like, forcing people. And then he's accepted he was wrong on that. He should accept he was wrong on the direction of that he directed at a child and ruined a child's life. And that's in my film. So he knows if we ever go head to head, he knows I'm bringing it up. And he knows it's awful for him. Watch the film. So Piers likes to paint himself as this journalist who's, mate, journalists research, journalists prepare. He didn't research or prepare fuck all. He went with the narrative because it was the easy narrative and he wanted to condemn the racist because it's all and feel great about himself without even researching to see that the boy wasn't a racist.
But he also likes a debate and an argument, so you'd think he would have at least got you on to fight his case.
No,
if he's appeared on your documentary, it makes me even more curious as to why didn't you get Tommy on your show to debate him?
He talks about me and blocks me. So he talked about me and blocked me. So here's the chat. So anyone share this with Piers Morgan. Piers, let's talk. Let's talk about my documentary Silence. Why don't you be the first journalist in the UK, the brave, fearless, uncensored Piers Morgan? Because no other journalist, 53 million views, the most watched British documentary has been, exposing corruption in the judiciary, and not one British journalist has mentioned it. Not one British journalist has had the conversation.
I'll tell you what is bizarre. You say he doesn't mention you and he won't invite you on the show.
Wait,
Well, that's an observation from
lies about me
and anybody else. But so when the civil unrest was taking place, he did mention you.
He just made it up and said that I instigated violence attacks against mosques. And you see, what he really needs to understand, when he had his daytime platform, massive, biggest platform in the country, and he lied about Bailey, he needs to understand the consequence of that lie. So when he told all the Muslims in the UK, on sitting down with one of the most influential Muslims now, Andrew Tate, that Tommy Robinson was instigating and directing attacks against mosques, the next day, my family were all getting Osman warnings. I had to fly my mum and dad straight out of the country. I had to fly my family straight out of the country for threats to their life and spend weeks with me. I flew them here and I drove to Portugal with them. And that's because of Piers Morgan, of his lies. He just lies. Just fucking lies. So he's a coward, he's a liar, he's endangered children, and basically that's it. He's an absolute coward. Look at his stance. And again, time will do me well, not him. It hasn't done him well on COVID, it hasn't done him well on the vaccine, it hasn't done him well on the documentary Silence, it won't do him well on any of these issues. And I tried to tell him 10 years ago, probably nearly, yeah? Or 8 years ago. You are saying now what I said 5 years ago. Yeah, you're playing catch up. In 5 years' time, he'll start talking about the issues that I'm talking about now. Once the path has been laid to talk about them, once it's become acceptable. But to make it acceptable, I'm not just talking about myself here. People lost their jobs. People are in jail. All these men are in jail now for the riots, which you'll see in our documentary. All these political prisoners. Unfortunately, they had to go to jail. I have to go to jail next week. As part of the mass awakening of Great Britain, people will have to go to jail. More people will have to get killed. The situation will have to get that bad. It has to get that bad for the public to want to seek the radical intervention and the radical decisions that need to be made to save the country. And that's how I've convinced myself. And when I say it's my destiny to be in this position, I'm now convinced that this is what I'm meant to do.
And talk about people going to jail for speaking up, and you feel that people are going to need to sacrifice their liberty in order for things to change.
People always do.
You spoke to some of the families, you spoke to some of the wives of the husbands that have been sent to jail. So you've done another investigation on the UK riots.
Me and my team, Yes, and I'll be honest, my team sprung into action when I was sitting feeling sorry for myself. I'm in a group chat, so I'm watching the new recruit, Sammy Woodhouse, as they sprung into action, as scripts began getting wrote and investigations started getting planned. We've put together a documentary that will tell the story of the lies of the riots, and we'll look at the unfair politicisation of the judiciary and the weaponisation of it to imprison British citizens who are fed up and angry with their government for failing them.
When this goes out, you're going to be in jail. But before you do go to jail, there is going to be an event that you're holding outside Number 10.
I hope I'm there because I might be in jail before that, but yeah.
Okay, so what I want to know is, irrespective of whether you're there or you're not, tell me exactly what you're setting out to achieve, what boundaries are put in place, what is your overall message. So there's no confusion, so no one can twist anything that you're intending to do.
So what the government did after the riots is they realised that the British public were at breaking point, ready to speak, ready to mobilise, ready to come together, ready to unify against them, against their plans. With the 100,000 on the street, with the million people watching live, with the public are awake. They realise that, so they used the riots to then use the court system to instill fear into the public that they're not allowed to demonstrate. They're not allowed, and people were locked up, innocent people were locked up for attending protests, for sharing memes on Facebook. So the purpose of that by the Keir Starmer's government was to instill fear in the public to shut the fuck up, basically. Shut up and sit down. You're being replaced, we'll do whatever we want. And if you step out of line, you can't demonstrate, we'll lock you up. So at that point, it becomes essential that a mobilisation on the streets is put on in a safe manner to show the British public that this is your right. It's your God-given right. They can't intimidate you into not expressing your democratic rights. It's your right to peacefully protest. And done rightfully, there's nothing anyone can do about it. So it's more important now than ever to send a message to Keir Starmer's establishment and his communist, tyrannical regime that you've not silenced us. That you think you could intimidate the British public with your prison sentences. You think that's going to work? It's like, well, you think locking me up solves the problem? You're basically putting it off for a little while, but we're still coming back. Yeah? The mobilisation and the awakening has happened. People are awake. People are awake to you. They hate you. You're hated. Yeah? You're the worst leader this country's ever had. That's what you're going to be remembered as. You're not going to last for 5 years. And I hope I play my part in that. Maybe my imprisonment plays part. But the message to people is, it's, if not now, then when? They've locked up granddads. They've locked up mums. A fucking 12-year-old girl was put in prison for kicking a door. A man banged on the door of a hotel room for 3 years. Someone shouted, "You're not English anymore," got fucking 3 years. Allah, Allah, hello, who the fuck is Allah? Got 18 months. We need to send them a message. The government needs to be sending a message. And what stronger message than flooding the whole of Parliament? We've got massive screens. We're going to play our documentary. We've got singers to send our messages. Let us send the message. You're never going to solve it with bricks and bottles.
What behaviour are you expecting from the crowd?
Oh, I'm confident. I'm confident. I know our crowd. I know our crowd.
What behaviour are you asking for?
We're asking for, if you can't control your behaviour, if you're too angry, which I understand why you're angry, don't come. Don't come. No one wear a face mask, because we'll take the face mask off you. Our supporters, with our 400 security, will be monitoring people who think they can cover their faces. The reason being, the only way the government can instigate violence, because that's what they do, look up the Special Demonstration Squad. The government have organisations and police units who infiltrate demonstrations to turn them violent, because then no one listens to your message. They can write you off as hooligans or thugs or racists or far right. So they send people in. They can't do that if we don't allow face coverings. So no one's covering their faces. Plus, we're proud to stand for what we stand for. I'm expecting an army of women like you've never seen. Yeah, it's all women. It's women. And the reason why it's women is because many of the women at the age they're at have worked. They're scared for their kids. They're not going to lose their job. They're mothers. Many of them are retiring. They're older women. Yeah, and people always say when you win the women's vote, you're winning. Well, we've won the women, right? The women are listening to us. They're on our side. They're not on Keir Starmer's side. They're not on the government side. They're not on mass open border immigration. They don't want Islamisation. They want protection. They're scared. They want to know their daughters are safe. It's time to stand up. So the message to the people, if not now, then when? And look at what people are sacrificing. People are in jail, man. Show solidarity to those families. The family's going to be watching the films. The family's going to be at the event. Their husbands are not going home with them this Christmas. I won't be at home this Christmas. There's many people ain't going to be at home at Christmas. So if not now, then when? What is it going to take for you to stand up? What point is it going to take? You know the demographics are changing. You know countries we're losing freedom and safety. They're housing them in every hotel across our country unvetted, violent men. It's now or never.
Whether people like you, love you, or hate you, the one thing that I'll be very surprised is if they don't respect you. How can you not respect a man that will die on his sword and stand on his word? I've never, ever been in the presence of a human being that is that rigid. But let me ask my final question, and I want you to tell me, I want you to convince me, how are you going to keep sane in jail if you're in solitary? What are you going to do?
Routine. So I didn't used to do cell work. I didn't do cell workouts when I was last in jail. I've done the bike, but what now through circuits I've been doing and training, it's all body work. So I will keep fit. I will come out a physical machine if I'm spend a year on a cell. That's what I'll do. As well, I set 7 hours before. I was lucky enough to have you bleed your hearts out to me, many of you. Joe, how I had one woman, for example, she'd email me every day. So because I can receive emails, I can receive mail. I used to get I read her life story. So she was going to salsa dances and she fell in love with the teacher and she was telling me all her stories. And I used to wait every day because it was part of my day. I was reading to see what happened next in her life. And when I got out of jail, I went and surprised some of those. I got the addresses of some of those people and just knocked on their doors. Just said, your letters got me through my sentence because I read your letters every day. I read every single letter and every email that was sent to me. And it was at that point that two things happened. I got a bit worried because I thought, fuck, these people are relying on me. If you know me, I'm a bit of a mess. Like, truthfully, I've fucking been a mess at times, man. So I'm looking thinking, you're relying on me to be the solution for our country. Like, it ain't great.
It's a big ask.
It's a big ask. So I felt a bit of pressure from it. But I also recognised the different array of support we have and the fact that my support base was no longer working class. It was a total mix of highly educated.
The bar's been raised.
Yeah, different people, man. And I also felt the passion in their stories. And I appreciate every minute that every person took to write those letters. Because I read every one of them. I've still got them all. I've got every single prison letter. I was going to make a book called Tom Robinson's Prison Diaries. Because some of them are fucking beautiful, man. So I got some amazing messages, devastating messages, life stories, abuse, all of it. So I sat for 7 hours. I had my routine then, but I didn't have a fitness routine. I had my routine of get up, I'd listen to music for 2 hours, then I'd have 7 hours of reading, and I stuck to my routine.
So you can give your word and commit to your friends, your family, and your followers that this time round you will keep yourself in tip-top physical condition to keep yourself sane.
Yeah,
so you can return with a bang when you're back released.
I'll return with a bang anyway. But a lot of all of these things, you see, the biggest problem with I like to be in control. I'm not in control. None of that's in my control. Where I go isn't in my control. If I'm in isolation isn't in my control. When they move me isn't in my control. Whether they walk me down corridors at certain times and I get got in the corridor isn't it? Nothing's in my control. So I'm in a position where I'm back to the wall and it's out of my control. So I will do everything within my control, within my ability to keep sane. But I don't know what they're going to do. So, for example, when I was in Onley, they come knocking on the door. Where's your wife? 2 prisoners officers. Where's your wife? Oh, fucking how the fuck am I meant to know? I'm a solitary confinement, and you let me use the phone when she's at work. So I don't know where my wife is. Why? There's intelligence. The police are trying to find her. There's threats to throw acid in her face. And then they shut the door. I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? So that's going to fry your head. And they knocked on my mum's door and my wife's door at the same time. Give them both warnings of acid attacks. Now, I sit and think, I don't know if there was a threat of that. I think that's fucking fry my brain.
Mind games.
I think it's fucking mind games. And then they put me in purposeful positions. And then I had some prick knock on my door when I was in Onley as well. Just come from ACAT. So I had a message from Saif al-Islam, Sword of Islam, some fucking mug. You know, look at all these terrorists that I grew up with. Like, his name was Sword of Islam. And he was, we love death more than you love life. Where are you now, you little shithouse? I mean, you ain't stayed the game. We're 15 years in. We're still here. Where are you? You fucking no extremists anymore. You fucking shithouse. So I look at all of them, but he gave me a message from ACAT prison. So he come from ACAT prison talking about my family. So all these different things. So lots of things are out of my control. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to give me TV. I don't know if, because people, the newspapers mocked me for saying, you see, when you go into prison, you're out your cell 8 hours a day, you work, you get visits, you go to ACAT, BCAT, CCAT, DCAT. My offence is an automatic DCAT. That's an open prison. I should have a key to my own cell. I should be able to go home at weekends. Yeah. So the injustice that I feel, because to keep me safe, they say they have to put me on solitary confinement. Well, solitary confinement is usually in the basement of the jail which is in the block, which is where you go for punishment. So because you go there for punishment, there's no electricity. So you don't get a TV. So you don't get all the privileges that you get as a prisoner. Well, why aren't I getting them? Because I ain't done fuck all. So I don't know what they're going to do. So that's all out of my hands. I just know that, which is part of probably what fries my head, or the panic or the worry about it, is I don't really know what I'm going back to.
But what I will say is this. I'm not a religious man, but I'll be praying for you.
You know what? I'm not a religious man, but I'm bringing the Bible with me. A good friend of mine, Dave, gave me a beautiful copy of the Bible. He's very religious. And do you know what? He's been a very strong mentor and a strong help and a beautiful person. Who, do you know, the sort of person who, he stayed at my mum's house and then he'd go home and write him a personal letter. And just, do you know, he's gone to help Bailey when he met Bailey. And he takes Bailey regularly, goes and meets Bailey and takes him for food. Bailey got a new job. He wrote the most beautiful letter because Bailey sent me a copy of it to Bailey's boss about him going in as a customer. So probably one of the nicest blokes I've ever met in my life, man. And he gave me the Bible. And I've never, isn't it mad? I got my head into the Quran, I didn't get my head into the Bible. But for such evil that we see in society, and this is where I've come looking at it, and such attacks on Christianity, I looked at the Paris opening ceremony of the Olympics, for such Satanism, such degradation and an attack on Christianity, and the way they try to silence it, it pushes me towards it. So as I've got older and I start looking, I fucking hate the church. Yeah, I hate the Christian representation of the Church of England. They're fucking cowards, right? Absolute sellout cowards. But that doesn't mean that I don't have faith or belief or spirituality. So I am going to take the Bible. I've always wanted to believe. I've tried to believe. I just haven't believed. When I go to jail, it's just at the same point. My mum's very religious. My mum always says that. Pray, Stephen, pray. And I had an amazing message just yesterday, a wonderful message off an ex-Muslim lady who said that every week a group of them get together for a 15-minute prayer for me. It's insane. And people talk about the power of prayer. But I think that I know that there's people out there praying for me every day. So
let me put a pin in the power of prayer, because just so people know, we are running out of time, and Stephen has got interviews lined up, and we're now 10:30 at night, and I'm well aware that you need your energy, and I feel like we've had a good enough conversation. I'm not religious, but I'm going to pray for you. And when you return from jail in one piece, we will be sitting opposite each other and we'll discuss
the takeover.
What happens next. Good old brother.
Cheers, bruv. It's been good, man.